I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Yes.
What are some common and frustrating misconceptions about ovarian cancer, and what are some early signs that you felt you had to fight for over and over?
I think people think that there is a test that you can use. They usually point to the CA-125 test. What a CA-125 test is, it tests the protein in a person's blood. And if you have a marker to go from, typically they use the CA-125 when a person has had ovarian cancer, and then they go through their chemotherapy, and it gets to a point where they call it remission. They get to a certain point, and then they say, okay, here is your marker. Your CA-125 Amy's was like 5 when they took her to remission the first time. But everybody's different with the CA-125. It's that markers, they don't have a marker to begin with. So when people think that there's a test for it, they don't really have a marker to begin with. If they had one to begin with, maybe it would be a little bit valid. But what they did one person's marker normal could be 5 and another person's could be 15. So you can't really tell by that and that by itself. The other thing is that when they would say, okay, this is where your C120, they would use it as a way that they could evaluate. And they get to a certain point and they say, we need to do a CT scan. People say, well, you can see it in a CT scan. They can't. They can only see it in masses in a CT scan. So but this type of cancer, it's particles. You don't see it. So what they would do is they would do a CT scan. They would do a CT scan with contrast. And then if it said no, then they would say, okay. If it continued to elevate, then they do what's called a PET scan. They have a PET scan at Cleveland Clinic. I don't think they even had one in Fort Wayne. This test is $30,000 every time they do this test. So they're going to be they scrutinize what they'll do. And then they would see it. But it would get to that point, and by then it had already spread. That's the problem with this type of cancer. That's why it's so important that there's a better early detection way. Because if you catch it in the ovaries, where they call it stage 1, they can get rid of it. Or if you know that it's coming, they can get rid of it. Most of the time they can't. Yes?
Yeah, so why should people donate to the cause when doctors already have the CE-125 and ultrasounds for this type of detection?
Because the CE-125 is not a valid way to do it. It's not, okay, it's a way to do it, but it doesn't, since you don't know, everybody's different, you don't know specifically what their marker is, and so therefore, you don't know if they have it. You could have a high CA-125, a higher CA-125 than someone else, just because you have more protein in your blood. So you don't really know for sure. But I said, don't take my word for it. You go to amysfoundation.org on our website, and Cleveland Clinic spells this out. Very similar to what I'm saying is the reason that they need to find this. They want to find a way so they can determine if a woman has this, much like they have pap smears they use for certain things, mammograms every year. They can do those every year, but you don't have any way of testing for ovarian cancer like that. And it is deadly. When you get it, once it gets outside of the ovaries, especially when it gets to stage 3, they're going to be optimistic and they're going to tell us that we can get rid of it, but the fact of the matter is you just can't. When 30% of the people even make it 5 years once they get to that stage 3. Yes?
Are you saying Amy would still be alive if this test existed?
I do. I do believe she would have been alive. Yeah, I do. Because what happens with this ovarian cancer is that it sits and it waits in a body. And once it starts to attack the ovaries, then it starts to spread throughout. If they knew it before it got to the ovaries, then you could do something about it. So, do I know that? No, I don't. But I know this for sure. I don't think, even though the doctors did everything they could, and they tried everything they could try, and they used all of the medication that we have, the chemotherapy, radiation in some cases, a variety of different concoctions of chemotherapy that they used. It's just not enough. Once this type of cancer spreads, it's not a kind of cancer you can go in centrally. Once it gets outside the ovaries, you can't centrally go in and just get it. Yes.
Hi, Ron. Amy's Foundation has some really great positive comments on your social channel. Some of them are powerful testimonials from women, and some of them are, they're pushing back that there already is early detection. Why are they convinced that they're right?
My personal opinion is I just think they're misinformed. I just think that they're just not... Again, they point to that CE125 test. Doctors are not going to tell you, they're going to use the best possible medicine they have. And they do. And that is the best indication, but only if you have that marker. Only if you know what their normal marker is on a CA125, is it even effective? So I think people think that. I think they're just the medical profession, they don't share. When Amy went through what she went through, they always tried to keep it positive. They have to. You got somebody that's dying. You don't do them any good by telling them you don't have a chance. Yes.
Some women test BRCA positive and do nothing. How do you convince them that that's a mistake, and what are her options?
That's a tough choice. Because in some ways, a woman has to do something that's very invasive. But if you're a BRCA1, you have an 87% chance of getting breast cancer. You have a 65% chance of getting ovarian cancer. So it's statistically, there's about a 96% chance you're going to get cancer someday if you're a BRCA1. You can do something about it, but it requires double mastectomy, and it requires getting ovaries and fallopian tubes taken out. That's what it requires. But when you do that, you have the same odds as the general public. And this is the kind of cancer that is not, it's scary. It's not something that you play with. I don't know if you know who Angelina Jolie is. She had BRCA1. In 2013, she got both her breasts removed. That's how cool this is. You want to stay alive? You want to live? That's what you got to do. But my lovely wife, Amy, went through pain. Yes.
So women who decide to get their ovaries removed to prevent cancer, they often face infertility, early menopause, and mental health struggles. How would you expect women to make that sacrifice?
Save your life. 96% chance you're going to get cancer, over either breast cancer or ovarian cancer sometime in your life. 87% breast cancer, 65%. The way the BRCA gene works is if a man and a woman have a baby, that baby has a 50-50 chance of carrying that gene. 50-50 chance. 2 of her daughters are BRCA positive. They've already gotten their breasts removed. One's in her early 30s. She's an oncology professional. That's what you got to do. If you're BRCA and if we have this test for early detection, can we stop it? No, but you can take that action. You can take that action. Yes.
So men can also carry the BRCA1 mutation. So would you say that this is just a women's issue, or should men get tested as well?
Well, if a man has BRCA in their family, with men, don't usually get cancer. You just carry it. So every baby that man has a 50-50 chance of having this gene. It's just, the statistics are all lined up against it. It's not a fair disease. It's a terrible disease. When I found out that Amy had this, it was like, I didn't get it. I lived it. Now I get it. I know what pain and suffering looks like. I know what the spirit of someone wanting to live looks like. It's just not something you play with. It's just like, okay, you got dealt those cards, you just got to have to play the cards you dealt. And it's unfortunate. I know that may seem callous, but it's not the end of the world. You got your life. Yes.
What's the conversation you could have with Amy now if you could?
I talk to Amy all the time. You go to my place, her pictures are everywhere. When I walk out the door every morning when I go to work, I say, goodbye, honey, I love you. Yes.
How long did doctors tell Amy that nothing was wrong before everything suddenly became wrong?
She always had heavy flow. She had bloating. That stuff was just normal stuff. Well, about a year before she got the hysterectomy, where they actually found the cancer, they did some sort of taking tissue off the uterus in order to try to slow her flow down. That was what they were trying to do. What that they do know about ovarian cancer is it does formulate in the body and percolate in the body for a while before it actually reveals itself.
Yeah, so you've been describing Amy as full of life, energy, and love, and I was just wondering what's one thing that cancer could never take away from her?
Amy? Just her kindness to others. She was the kind of person that she would be in total pain. I knew it, but she didn't tell anybody else. And she would go, and first thing she would do is she would ask them about their family and about how are they doing and about them. Of course, most of us, we like to talk about ourselves, right? So they would talk and talk and talk about themselves. And she would listen and listen and listen and listen. But she was just that kind of person. She just always asked about you. She loved her daughters so much. Her daughters run this hierarchy much higher than me. I know that. There's no doubt in my mind. That's where they should be. Yeah, they couldn't take that spirit away from her. Never, cancer didn't do that. But she went through a lot. Yes.
When Amy was diagnosed, did her view of the world change, or did she hold on tighter to the life she loved, or did she find a new meaning within her life?
From the time that this started, she goes through a surgery. She finds out that she has ovarian cancer. Immediately we respond. Immediately we react. She goes and she gets a surgery that requires that you take all of their organs out of your body. And then they cut the cancer out where they can, and then they put them all back in. And then she goes through rounds of aggressive chemotherapy. And she has a bowel obstruction immediately, and she ends up taking an ambulance to the Cleveland clinic. That was the way it started. Yeah, there was peaks and valleys, and we had a year where we really thought the first time when it went away, we thought, maybe we got this, because she went through a lot. But then it came back, and it came coming back. Each time it recurs quicker. And it just was like, how long could she live through the 14 surgeries, chemotherapy for 7 out of 10 years. Yes.
In those moments of her last days, when you're saying she would find herself, why me? What do you say to somebody in a moment like that?
My answer was always the same. Because my job was to protect her. My job was to try to keep her out of pain. And I just told, honey, you're spectacular. That's why God did this. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I know you're spectacular, and I know there's going to be something good come out of it. Yes.
What's the hardest part of Amy's story to tell? And do you still struggle with a certain part of telling it?
I got to live. She didn't. We both love to live. We both love to live. I love to live. I still love to live. She didn't get to.
If Amy could see everything that you've done in her honor, how do you think that she would react now?
She'd say thank you. She'd say thank you for loving me so much. She'd say, thank you for letting me talk through you. She'd say, thank you for standing by my daughters, not leaving them. She'd say, thank you for keeping my spirit alive.